Incredible twist, Nurse's heartwarming blood donation saves single dad CEO. Discover the amazing journey from struggle to hope. Jamie stood in the blistering chaos of the hospital, a haven of care amid a bustling suburb of Chicago. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the worn, yet hopeful faces of patients. She straightened her scrubs and took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the mixture of antiseptic and determination. It wasn't just another day, it was another reminder of her resilience as a single mother to her spirited teenage daughter, Emma. Together, they fought daily against the looming threats of economic struggle, both dreaming of a brighter future. On this ordinary afternoon, news rippled through the hospital's corridors. Tom, the powerful CEO known for his ambitious drive, was in dire need of a rare blood type for emergency surgery. There was a sense of urgency buzzed around the staff who clamored to donate, all while whispers of privilege and status filled the air. Jamie hesitated, her heart thumping. Her gut told her to ignore the judgment. This moment was about saving a life. With a sense of determination that propelled her forward, she mustered the courage to step into the blood donation center. The needle pierced her skin, and Jamie felt her heart racing. Was this truly enough? As the crimson liquid flowed, she thought of Emma. The idea of a future where they wouldn't have to struggle loomed over her like a hopeful promise. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A few hours later, the news struck like lightning. Jamie's blood donation had not only saved Tom's life but ignited conversations among hospital staff. The unspoken class divides crackled in the air. Nurses that once regarded her with distant professionalism now eyed her with disbelief. Was this working-class woman truly worthy of glory in a world dominated by wealth? Could a connection bloom despite their societal differences? As Jamie and Tom began to converse, two single parents navigating similar struggles, their friendship blossomed. They shared a laughter that felt electric, an understanding forged in shared burdens. Yet the shadows of corporate greed loomed over Tom's every move, threatening his vision of patient-centered care. Jamie began to feel the weight of judgment, whispers of worthiness chilling her spirit. As their bond deepened amid frustrations with their realities, they confronted issues much larger than themselves. What does it mean to be truly deserving of happiness? When societal expectations threaten their existence, can true friendship flourish? Just as this fragile camaraderie began to anchor them both, an unforeseen crisis loomed that threatened to pull them apart. Would they be strong enough to rise above, or would the dividing lines of society pull them back into the depths of their struggles? The answer lay just ahead, waiting for both Jamie and Tom to muster the courage to confront their deepest fears. As the days passed, the reality of their connection settled like a warm blanket over Jamie's heart, but it also stirred a sense of unease. The hospital, once a bustling hive of medical resolve, felt suddenly more like a battleground of worthiness and prestige. Whenever Jamie walked the corridors, she sensed the glances directed her way, some admiring, some skeptical. Strangely enough, Tom's near-death experience had shifted perceptions, but the whispers remained. During lunch one day in the cafeteria, Jamie found solace in laughter with Tom, who made light of the absurdity in corporate meetings. "Did you hear about the new board member?" He chuckled. "I swear he thinks team building means turning the conference room into an escape room. I nearly escaped with my sanity." Jamie laughed, her worries momentarily swept away. Yet, as their laughter faded, an uncomfortable truth loomed in their silence. They were surrounded by tables of acquaintances and colleagues, a stark reminder of the divide that lingered beneath the surface. "I appreciate this, you know," Tom said, his voice lowered. "You gave me a second chance." "It was just blood, Tom," Jamie replied, though inside, she felt the enormity of it. "No, it was a lifeline." He met her gaze, his eyes sincere but troubled. And if truth be told, I'm terrified about what's next. What do you mean? She asked, a knot tightening in her stomach. The hospital is under pressure from the board to cut costs and I'm fighting for patient care. It's like being in a war zone where everyone is armed with ego instead of weapons. His frustration hung heavy in the air. I can't let the bureaucracy define healthcare because of profit margins. Jamie nodded slowly, her heart racing. She understood that struggle all too well, balancing making ends meet while nurturing Emma's ambitions. I can help. She blurted out unexpectedly. I mean, I'm not a healthcare executive, but if there's a way for me to use my voice or connect with others, I want to help you. We're both just trying to make the best of what we have, right? Tom regarded her thoughtfully, a spark igniting in his eyes. You'd really do that? Of course, she said, surprising herself with her resolve. We might have different backgrounds, but we both want what's best for our kids and the people we care about. Just then, the cafeteria buzzed with tension as a group of senior staff entered, voices raised, accusations flying. Jamie's stomach sunk. They were discussing Tom behind his back, calling for his resignation and questioning his integrity. This could destroy him, Jamie whispered, dread creeping in. Tom clenched his fists as their voices grew louder. I can't let them do this to me, to the patients. I won't let them get away with it either, Jamie replied, brimming with unexpected strength. Determination surged within her. They were on the cusp of something monumental, a collective stand against the forces threatening their fragile bond and larger ambitions. But as they planned their path forward, a sentry in scrubs approached, cold eyes steady on Jamie, delivering shocking news that shifted the ground beneath them. What do you think you're doing here? She sneered, and Jamie felt a chill crawl up her spine. What was meant to be a new chapter morphing into a fight for survival raised questions about alliances, courage, and the very essence of what it means to stand up for one another in a world full of judgment. Jamie and Tom's budding alliance faced an unpredictable turn, and as they walked towards that challenge, a pivotal decision was looming on the horizon. Where would their newfound unity lead them next? The tension in the cafeteria thickened. Rebecca, stern and unyielding, stood with her arms crossed, her presence a wall of disapproval. Jamie felt a sinking feeling in her stomach, the breath caught in her throat. She thought their moment of unity might spiral into chaos. What do you mean by that? Jamie asked, forcing her voice to stay steady despite her racing heart. You don't belong here, Rebecca spat, disdain dripping from her words. You're just a tech support person, not qualified to even offer an opinion on hospital operations. Jamie blinked, taken aback. We're all just trying to do what's best for our patients. Rebecca let out a humorless laugh. Exactly. You aren't equipped to weigh in. You should know your place. Tom suddenly stepped forward, a protective fire in his eyes. She has just as much right to speak up as anyone else in this room. What is happening here is about more than titles. The staff, who had previously been absorbed in their conversations, turned to watch the confrontation, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern. The air felt charged with unspoken words, the growing anxiety settling among the tables like an unexpected storm. Tom, you shouldn't, Jamie began, but he cut her off. No. This is the problem. No one wants to acknowledge the real issues because they're too busy worrying about protecting their reputation. Rebecca scoffed. Is that your plan? Use your little connection to this woman to rally some sort of support? Pathetic. Jamie's pulse quickened. She glanced around, searching for signs of support among the crowd. The whispers were growing louder, echoing doubts, but she felt small embers of courage flickering inside her. Listen, I don't need your validation, Rebecca, Jamie said, her voice stronger than before. I've seen the struggles of families behind the scenes. My daughter, Emma, needs this hospital to be the best in its field. I'm not fighting for accolades, I'm fighting for what matters. As soon as she finished, Jamie realized the stakes. She wasn't just defending Tom, she was standing up for herself, her daughter, and everyone else who didn't have a voice at that moment. She felt a swell of camaraderie building quietly beside her as fellow staff began to murmur their agreement. Rebecca sneered but faltered slightly, sensing the tide shifting. "You better watch your back, Jamie. I won't let this childish stunt go unchecked." With those words, she turned sharply and stalked away, leaving a strange silence in her wake. Almost instinctively, the cafeteria began buzzing again, this time with conversations that flickered with support rather than scorn. Tom turned towards Jamie, his expression softening. "You were incredible," he said, admiration glinting in his eyes. "I didn't know you had it in you." "I didn't either," she replied, a blush creeping onto her cheeks. "But I couldn't just stand by. We have to do something." His smile faded into thoughtfulness. "Then let us channel this energy. Start a campaign, raise awareness, gather allies. It's time we turn the tide back in our favor." As they finalized their plans, a sense of purpose washed over Jamie. She wasn't just battling for Tom anymore, they were fighting for a community and a system that deserved to be better. Just as they exchanged ideas, respected senior doctor approached the table. "I heard what you said," he began, his voice low yet firm. "If you're serious about making changes, there's a meeting next week that you both need to be at." His words hung in the air, and Jamie's heart raced. This could be their first real step toward change, but also a defining moment that could pit them against powerful enemies. Her breath hitched, excitement intermingled with fear. What are we getting into? She wondered silently, feeling the weight of the challenge ahead. As they moved forward, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning of a much larger struggle. Would they be able to harness their newfound courage, or would the shadows lurking in the hospital ecosystem prove too formidable? The stakes were higher than ever, and only time would tell what would happen next. Jamie felt a knot twist in her stomach. The invitation to the meeting was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it was the opportunity they needed to push for the change they so desperately sought. On the other, it was a high-risk gamble, standing in opposition to established powers like Rebecca. "Are we really ready for this?" Jamie said, worry creasing her brow. Tom placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're not alone. Other staff members, those who nodded along with you today, they're just waiting for someone to lead. We all want change. Together, we can make our voices heard." Tension thrummed in the atmosphere like a taut string. Jamie looked around at her colleagues, some of whom were eyeing her with hope, while others wore deep concern. She was grateful to see the shadows of unity, but anxiety gnawed at her. "Okay." She took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. "What do we need to prepare?" "Let us gather stories. Personal accounts from the staff and families who have seen the flaws in our system. It's not just about stats and protocols, it's about real people." Tom's eyes sparkled with determination. "We'll need a plan to tell those stories powerfully." Days passed in a flurry of activity. Jamie met with co-workers to collect stories, each one more heartbreaking yet empowering than the last. She spoke with nurses and parents, each voice weaving a thread of shared experience that began to form a tapestry of resistance. Back at her desk, Jamie would sometimes think of Emma, her little girl navigating the complexities of her childhood illness. Each time a story resonated with her, she pictured Emma's face, and her motivation surged. Each narrative was another source of fuel, igniting Jamie's resolve. The cafeteria buzzed with excitement and anticipation in the days leading up to the meeting. Jamie's heart raced as she paced the hallways, her mind surrendering to the weight of the battle ahead. What would she say? Would her voice hold enough strength to drown out dissent? While they prepared their presentation, Rebecca's menacing shadow loomed nearby, her influence felt in hushed whispers and sidelong glances from those still loyal to her. It was intimidating, the way she could coerce allegiance without even trying. That evening, as Jamie sat with Tom reviewing notes, she noticed her hands trembling. What if it doesn't work? What if people dismiss our message? Tom looked her straight in the eye. Fear is always louder than hope. But if we silence that fear with our honesty, maybe people will listen. We have to believe we're fighting for something that matters. Encouraged, Jamie nodded. Their meeting was to take place in a large conference room, the kind that echoed with authority and tradition. Hearts raced with anticipation as they approached the entry. Stepping inside, they found familiar faces from all departments watching closely. Silence prevailed, broken only by the sound of Jamie's heartbeat in her ears. Would she be able to share her story? Would the truth flow from her lips, mingling with hope and courage like a lifeline? The stakes were higher than ever, and her pulse thrummed in attention. As she began to speak, she noticed Rebecca's steely glare at the back of the room. With each word, Jamie felt the weight of many souls back her up. She took a deep breath and spoke from the heart, determined to shine a light on the challenges they faced together. But just as she reached a pivotal moment in her speech, the door swung open dramatically, revealing a figure known in the hospital but unlooked for in this context, a well-respected doctor who had been a longtime supporter of Rebecca. The room held its breath as the newcomer strode forward, a look of surprise flickering over their face. What would this unexpected arrival mean for their efforts? Would they be allies or more threats? Jamie felt the air shift, sensing the stakes climbing higher than ever. In that moment, everything stood on the precipice of change. Would their courage lead them to victory, or would this twist spell disaster? The answer felt just out of reach, but one thing was clear: the battle had only just begun. Jamie was caught in that split second, her heart racing, as the doctor stepped into the spotlight where her voice had just begun to carve out hope. Dr. Bennett had a reputation, a legend in the halls of the hospital, revered for his medical skills and his unwavering loyalty to Rebecca. What could he possibly want now? "Excuse me. I didn't mean to interrupt," he started, his voice charming yet cautious. "I just came to clarify some of the statistics Rebecca mentioned. Some of the data may not tell the whole story." Jamie's eyes widened. This wasn't what she expected. This was a double-edged sword in its own right. While Dr. Bennett's presence could validate their concerns, it also risked overshadowing her voice. "Please, go ahead," Rebecca quickly interjected, her tone rigid like the icy glares she cast. "We welcome all points of view." Whispers cascaded across the room as Dr. Bennett took the stage. It felt like the world was watching, and Jamie could almost feel the weight of her own hope tangling with doubt. She exchanged a fleeting glance with Tom, whose expression mirrored her anxiety. "Thank you, Rebecca. I just think we need to approach this with balanced perspectives," Dr. Bennett expressed, glancing briefly at Jamie. "Yes, the stories are vital, but if we lean too heavily into emotional anecdotes, we risk overlooking the real systemic issues that need addressing." Each word was like a distant thunderclap, rattling the foundations of Jamie's resolve. She recalled all the families who had shared their heartbreaks with her. Were they just emotional anecdotes? Did their pain not count in the grand tapestry of healthcare? The atmosphere shifted. Jamie's pulse quickened, and she fought hard to rein in her thoughts. This was at the moment she dreaded and anticipated all at once. Dr. Bennett, with all due respect, she found her voice amid the chaos, her anxiety morphing into determination. "There's a reason those stories matter. They're not just tales, they represent the struggles and lives affected every single day. They are the foundation of what this change is about." Her words hung in the air, puncturing the tension like a pin, setting the tone for something new. The whispers quieted, turning into silent agreement from some but defiance from others. Jamie's heart thudded, each beat trembling with uncertainty and a growing sense of urgency. A moment passed before Dr. Bennett replied, respect seeping into his tone. "I understand that. I do. But we need structure, something that can stand against scrutiny. Perhaps we can discuss how we can use the stories alongside data." Feeling the momentum shift, Jamie seized the opportunity. "Together then, let us build something that encompasses both." Rebecca's expression soured as she watched Jamie and Dr. Bennett forge a fragile alliance. It was a flicker of light in the darkness, but Jamie knew it was just the beginning. The tide was turning, slowly but surely, yet, as the meeting progressed, Jamie's attention drifted toward the rest of her colleagues, their worry slowly metamorphosing into hope. She could see the faint spark in their eyes. This was allowing them to reclaim their voices, a liberation Jamie hadn't fully anticipated, but even as the optimism grew, the shadow of hostility lingered. Rebecca's piercing glare remained locked on Jamie, a constant reminder that this battle wasn't over. As the meeting wrapped up, Jamie felt dizzy with a mix of adrenaline and hope. She and Tom exchanged a look, wordlessly acknowledging their one small victory. But her mind raced with questions. What was Rebecca planning next? Would anyone stand up to fight for Jamie's newfound flame of change? Stepping out of the conference room into the bright hallway, Jamie took a deep breath. A new energy pulsed through her. She wouldn't back down, this was just the beginning. But she knew one thing for sure: the next encounter with Rebecca would not be just a meeting, it would be a confrontation that would test all they had gained. How would they prepare for such a showdown? Would the stories they gathered transform the relentless fight ahead into a rallying cry unbreakable in its resolve? Jamie walked into the break room, still buzzing from the meeting. Her colleagues lingered around the coffee machine, exchanging murmurs in excited tones. The tension had shifted, and it felt like freedom hung in the air, a promise of change, however fragile. "Did you see the way Dr. Bennett listened?" Tom said, leaning against the countertop, his eyes shining with encouragement. "You really got through to him." "I hope so, but I can't let my guard down," Jamie replied, her stomach twisting with a flutter of anxiety. "Rebecca won't just let this go." There was a dark glint in her voice she wished she could swallow back. Tom nodded, concern creasing his forehead. "You know she's got the power to undermine anything we say. We need to be ready." Jamie sipped her coffee, the warmth grounding her in the moment. "Let us focus on the stories," she said, almost to herself. "I'll start reaching out to families again. If we can gather more real experiences, maybe we can rally support." "Absolutely," Tom encouraged. "Let's document everything. Their struggles matter." As the day unfolded, Jamie buried herself in work. She jotted down notes, sending emails and messages to families who shared their hearts with her before. She kept returning to the image of those tear-filled eyes, the aching stories that echoed in her mind. Each tale was a thread, weaving together a tapestry of pain and resilience. Then came a few replies, quick and hopeful. Soon, Jamie was on the phone, each conversation reminding her why this fight was worth it. As she took notes of a mother's struggle to find care for her sick child, Jamie could almost feel the weight of the woman's heartache pressing on her chest. It fueled her fire. Hours slipped away until evening crept in. Jamie's phone buzzed with a message: Rebecca wanted to meet the next day. The knot in Jamie's stomach tightened. What was this about? What new hurdle was she about to face? "Jamie? Are you there?" Tom interrupted her thoughts, concern written on his face. "You look pale." "Rebecca wants to meet," she whispered, half afraid of even saying her name aloud. "I have a feeling it won't be good." Tom crossed his arms, his expression sharpening. "We need to strategize. The stories, data, everything, it's all ammunition for you." The idea of a battle ahead was daunting, but as they talked, Jamie felt that flicker of hope rekindling. She could see it in Tom's unwavering support. Together, they crafted approaches, reviewed every angle she could take. As they wrapped up, Jamie felt something shift deep inside. She had a vision now, not just for tomorrow or this meeting, but for something larger. Their call to action could ripple beyond their small corner of the hospital. She dreamt of a shift in the very way the institution viewed patient care. Leaving the break room, she spotted a flyer on the board, a spontaneous blood donation drive for local patients. It seemed insignificant against the backdrop of what she was trying to achieve, but the words "together we can help" twinkled with promise. "Jamie?" Tom's voice broke through her thoughts again. "You ready for tomorrow?" A sense of determination washed over her. More than ever, she declared, the fire in her spirit igniting. What choice would Rebecca present to her next? Would Jamie find a way to channel the strength of those stories into something powerful enough to counter that looming threat? The future bristled with uncertainty, but one thing was clear: she wouldn't back down without a fight. And she would be ready to confront whatever Rebecca had in store for her. It was time to take a stand. The next day arrived with a weight heavier than Jamie expected. Her stomach churned as she walked into the small conference room where Rebecca waited. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting a clinical, harsh glow that seemed to amplify Jamie's nerves. She took a deep breath, summoning the determination she had cultivated the night before. "Jamie," Rebecca's voice sliced through the tension as she gestured for Jamie to sit. "Glad you could join me." There was a steely calm to her demeanor, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions running through Jamie. "Thanks for making time," Jamie replied, trying to sound confident, even though her hands were clammy on the table. "I want to discuss your presentation and the feedback we've received from the board," Rebecca continued, leaning back in her chair, arms crossed. "They have reservations." Jamie's heartbeat quickened. "Reservations? About what? I thought we made it clear how necessary these changes are." Rebecca's expression hardened. "It's not just about logistics or even the emotional narratives you gathered. They're worried about funding. Where will the money come from?" Right there, in that moment, Jamie felt the walls closing in around her. She thought about the families, the tears, the struggles. "It's about the patients, Rebecca. We're talking about lives here. If we can show them the impact of investing in care, surely the LLC impact is great." "Jamie," Rebecca interrupted, her tone clipped. "But board members also want numbers. They want facts. And they're not seeing enough of that in your approach." Each word felt like a pebble, chipping away at Jamie's resolve. "Then I'll gather more," she started, but Rebecca cut her off swiftly. "I'd suggest you consider a different approach. Maybe dial back on the emotional stories. They like cold, hard facts, Jamie, not tears." Rebecca's smirk was infuriating. "Cold, hard facts often disregard the human aspect," Jamie bristled, frustration bubbling beneath her skin. "The emotion, the stories, they matter. They resonate. Perhaps, but you need to present what they understand. They're investors, not supporters." Rebecca's eyes narrowed with an impish glint that unnerved Jamie. "You need to bring them something they cannot ignore. Something substantial." What was this game? Jamie's brain raced. A proposal? She could do that, but Rebecca's patronizing tone burned. The board wanted data? Fine. She'd bring them data, but she could not lose sight of the stories that ignited her passion. "I'll do both, then. I'll return with the human touch wrapped in facts," Jamie declared, pushing back against the phalanx of despair accumulating around her. "Good," Rebecca replied, tilting her head slightly. "Just remember, Jamie, I advise caution. They are not easily swayed." Leaving the meeting, Jamie felt a combination of anger and adrenaline coursing through her. Work was always a battlefield, but this felt like warfare. She was determined to gather the stories, but she'd have to back it up with numbers. It would take everything she had to not only meet but exceed expectations. As she stood with Tom later, sharing the news, he frowned. "She's playing a dangerous game, trying to strip away the heart of your presentation." "I know," Jamie said, her chin raised defiantly. "But what if we found families who were willing to speak out on the benefits they've experienced? If we gather testimonials as well as facts, it could change everything." "I can help with that," Tom nodded. "Let us set up meetings. We need concrete examples that illustrate the financial returns from supportive care." As they brainstormed ways to present solid testimonials combined with hard data, a thought struck Jamie. What if we also tapped into recent blood donation stories? The connection those families have with their donators could be powerful. Tom raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Remember the blood drive poster we saw? I've been thinking a single father managed to connect with his community through sharing his donation story for his children. What if we could showcase how something as simple as this could have cascading benefits for the board? It could impact their numbers, their emotions, the families. At that moment, an idea bloomed in Jamie's mind. This could be the key she needed to unlock the board's hearts and wallets. Do you think they'd take it seriously? Tom asked, half hopeful and half doubtful. We have to show them it's real, Jamie replied, the words igniting a flame inside her. We have to prove that together, we can change lives. As they sketched out their plan, Jamie realized she was on the verge of pulling together an unprecedented alliance. The stakes were rising, and the risk was palpable. Would their efforts be enough to win over the board, or would Rebecca's ice-cold logic freeze everything in its tracks? Jamie knew she had something to fight for, but would this be the moment that changed everything? She felt an electric thrill of possibility in the air. After all, bringing stories to life could ignite a revolution, and Jamie was ready to lead the charge. But what unexpected connections would unfold as they ventured into this new territory? The following week unfolded like a delicate tapestry, each thread a new story interwoven with hope and possibility. Jamie was relentless in her pursuit of the testimonials, reaching out to families touched by blood donation and the life-saving connections it created. Each call felt like a step into a new world, unveiling faces and stories she had never imagined. With Tom by her side, they moved from one family meeting to the next, sharing coffee, sharing laughter, even sharing tears. There was the single mother whose son had received a heart transplant, complementing the community support that rallied around them. Or the elderly grandmother, her gnarled hands cradling an old photo of her late husband, sharing how the blood donations had given him precious extra months with their family. Each encounter fueled Jamie's conviction. These weren't just statistics, they were lives transformed. As they prepared for a weekend community event centered around blood donation, Jamie felt excitement bubbling inside her. The local park was set to host a blood drive, and she had a booth reserved to gather more stories. She had managed to convince some of the families to join, sharing their experiences and the personal impact of giving life through blood. That Saturday, the sun poured warmth as families began to fill the park, children laughing and running in the grass. Jamie's booth was alive with chatter, colorful signs inviting passers-by to stop and listen. The atmosphere felt electric. With each story shared, emotions ran high, people teared up, smiles broke out, and connections sparked in the air. Jamie, this is incredible! Tom exclaimed, scanning the crowd that had gathered. You're not just crunching numbers, you're turning this into a movement. But it was more than just a movement, it was becoming a family. Jamie couldn't help but feel pride swell within her. The stories were powerful. Each moment she recorded felt like a note in a melody, a harmonious blend of life and struggle, loss and victory. Yet, amid that joy was a nagging worry, a whisper of doubt. What if it wasn't enough? What if Rebecca was right, and the board couldn't see past their profit sheets? As they wrapped up for the day, Jamie met with a striking man who had been quietly observing. He introduced himself as Gabriel, a single father whose son had suffered from a blood disorder. I'm here because of the hospital's outreach, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The donations helped our family stay afloat during the hardest times. I'd love to speak at your presentation. Jamie felt a rush of gratitude, warmth washing over her. Your story could be the heart of everything we're creating. Would you be willing to join me next week? The world needs to hear this, he replied firmly, his eyes shining with conviction. Whatever I can do to help. As Jamie returned home that night, she was consumed with thoughts of Gabriel and the families she had met. Their experiences danced in her mind like flickering candlelight in the dark, a beacon of faith she needed to carry into her next presentation. But amidst that flame of hope, a palpable fear gripped her. What would Rebecca say? Would she dismiss the heartfelt connections and insist on sticking to her cold statistics? With the board meeting looming closer, anticipation and dread warred within Jamie. She stayed up late, practicing her pitch, motioning to the stories she wanted to tell. But there was one thing she had to consider: what if Rebecca tried to undermine her newfound approach? As thoughts circled in her mind, Jamie clenched her fists, feeling teetering on the edge of something monumental. What if each story she gathered wasn't just a testament to the impact of blood donations? What if they also highlighted a glaring truth about the healthcare system itself? This realization hit her hard, and a rush of adrenaline surged through her. If she connected each narrative carefully, she could weave a blanket of overwhelming emotion that might be impossible to ignore. But would it be enough to break through the walls Rebecca had warned her about? Jamie closed her eyes, breathing heavily, determined. She was no longer just fighting against a board, she was on a mission to shake them from complacency. No more hiding behind graphs and numbers. Her voice would rise above the fray, echoing with the stories bursting forth from the families she had met. On the eve of her presentation, Jamie stood at the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon. A quiet resolve settled in her heart. She was ready for whatever came next, but just as she was about to turn away, her phone buzzed with a message. It was Tom, and the urgency in his text sent a shiver down her spine. "You won't believe this, one of the families has a shocking twist in their story. It changes everything." What twist awaited Jamie? How would this new revelation shape her presentation? The uncertainty loomed like storm clouds on the horizon, and Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. Jamie's heart raced as she read Tom's message again, her mind racing through a litany of possibilities. What did this twist mean? She quickly typed back, asking for details, her hands trembling slightly as she hit send. Minutes felt like hours, and her thoughts continued to spiral. Was this revelation something that could change the course of her presentation? She knew that the board, particularly Rebecca, would be unmoved by motivational speeches alone. They craved hard evidence, compelling data that aligned with their agenda. But what if this new development brought an unexpected emotional weight to her message? The phone buzzed again, this time with a longer message from Tom. "It's about Gabriel's son. After his last treatment, they thought he was stable. But there was a complication. He needs a new blood source, and fast. If the community doesn't step up, he could be in serious trouble." The family's story is about to take a much more urgent turn. Jamie felt her chest tighten as she absorbed the news. Gabriel had shared with her the strength it took to stay hopeful during their dark times, but this was life and death. The weight of it hung heavy in the air. She couldn't dwell on fear. This wasn't just about making a presentation anymore. It was about rallying a community in the face of real need. Inspired, she sent a voice message to Tom. "We need to put Gabriel at the center of everything. His story is now urgent and powerful. We can't just share what blood donation has done, this is about what it can do right now. Let us rally support and focus on the real-life consequences of a lack of donations. Imagine if we could motivate the community to step in when it matters most." As she paced the room, her vision sharpened. Each family she'd spoken with, each testimonial gathered, was not just a number in the boardroom. They were living, breathing connections to the community, and they needed to know they could save a life. With a swiftness that astonished her, Jamie began to craft her presentation. She envisioned a montage of stories swirling together, articulated with clarity and urgency, each voice layered with the hope that their community could rise up and help. She would show the board that these stories mattered, illuminating the compassionate side of what they did. Sure, the statistics were vital, but the heart of the matter lay with the people. Hours melted away as she worked desperately to align every narrative, aligning it all around Gabriel's situation. Pictures of smiling children, families coming together, and hands reaching out. Her presentation would be a mosaic of hope and action. Just before dawn, exhaustion crept in, tucking her into a restless sleep. Visions of Gabriel's son haunted her dreams, his face flickering like an old film reel between moments of relief and despair. She jolted awake, the persistent buzz of her phone pulling her back to reality. Morning light poured through her window as she rubbed her eyes and grabbed her phone. It was a message from Gabriel. "Jamie, I want to thank you for pushing my story forward. But I need you to know the doctors are not optimistic. We're fighting, but I fear we may lose this battle. Tears flooded Jamie's eyes. This was the urgency she needed to carry into the meeting. This was about more than awareness. It was life, and she had to be the voice that carried this message. With newfound determination coursing through her veins, she clutched her presentation as she headed to the meeting. The energy in her shifted, fueled by the stakes at hand. As she entered the conference room, her gaze met Rebecca's cool and shrewd. Jamie's heart whispered a simple prayer. The sun rose over the day's sky, illuminating paths of possibilities. As she placed her notes down, she took a breath, ready to transform her nervous energy into something powerful. But she couldn't quite shake the feeling that this meeting was only the beginning. What would happen when the board heard Gabriel's story? Would they step up, or would this moment slip away into silence? The conference room hummed with anticipation as Jamie squared her shoulders against the weight of the moment. In her hand, her notes felt like a lifeline, a combination of heart-wrenching testimonials woven into a tapestry of urgency she was determined to unveil. She took a deep breath, steadying her nerves while scanning the room. Tom sat at the edge, his supportive nod mingling with the apprehensive expressions of the board members. "Thank you all for being here today," Jamie began, her voice steady. "Today, I want to share something that impacts all of us, not just in data, but in lives." She took a moment, retelling Gabriel's story with each word grounding her in the emotion of the moment. Gabriel is a single father fighting for his son's life. His son, Ethan, was stable after treatment until just recently when a complication arose. He now needs a new blood source urgently. A ripple of shock surged through the room as she shared immediate images of Ethan, a vibrant child whose life hung in the balance. Jamie looked around to see concerned brows and widening eyes. "This is not just a story of numbers or statistics," she pressed. "This is about what happens when our community comes together, or when it doesn't. A simple donation can mean life or loss. All of us here have the power to turn that urgency into action." From the corner, Rebecca's face grew stormy, yet muted murmurs of agreement began flowing from the assembled staff. Jamie's heart raced as her words sculpted a bridge between her mission and their hesitations. She continued, envisioning Ethan's laughter echoing in the halls of the hospital, a reminder of the hope they were fighting for. "Imagine a community rallying to support families like Gabriel's instead of just watching from afar. We need to show the board a path that balances the emotional drive with hard facts, combining testimonials with budgetary needs." The board members whispered among themselves, challenged by her intensity. But just as she felt momentum swell, Rebecca's voice sliced through the murmurs. "Jamie, while emotion is commendable, how do you expect us to secure funding based solely on a narrative? We are business-minded individuals here. We require numbers, data that shows the financial benefit." Jamie felt frustration rise but steeled herself. "It's not just about cost savings, Rebecca. It's about lives saved, families supported, and our community strengthened. The emotional weight behind this is what drives care decisions and inspires change more than any spreadsheet ever could." Yet the tension was palpable. Jamie sensed the struggle, caught between Rebecca's cold logic and the humanity she was desperately fighting for. She needed to lean into the bond she forged over the last few weeks. It needed to be visible, undeniable. Taking a breath, she shifted tactics. "Let us bring the stories to life," she said. "I can introduce you to families like Gabriel's who are willing to work with us directly to showcase the real, tangible impacts of community support in blood donation." As she finished, a shift occurred. The eyes of her colleagues lit with newfound energy, and Tom was nodding vigorously, ever the supportive presence. "Let us get this community involved," he chimed in. "We already have several families ready to engage and share more about their experiences firsthand. This isn't just one family's plea, this is about creating a movement." Jamie watched as a few board members leaned in, intrigued. This was no longer just a slideshow of points, it was a call to action. Before the meeting concluded, Dr. Bennett, who had quietly observed, intervened. Perhaps we can look to fuse both this emotional resonance and the numbers Jamie spoke of. A dual approach could bolster our case, showing the hospital not just as a business, but as a community leader in patient care. The tension shifted, chipping away Rebecca's aloofness. Jamie seized that moment, rallying her facts alongside the human stories. She discussed the benefits of compassionate care, community engagement, and how each action could ultimately lead to better outcomes. As the meeting wrapped, Jamie felt the tremors of apprehension lessen. If the emotions had struck a chord, perhaps they just might advocate for their shared vision after all. When the meeting ended and Jamie stepped out into the glowing evening light, a feeling of hope washed over her. Still, she wouldn't let her guard down. The next step loomed before her. Would the critical encounters she built lead to change? And what would become of Gabriel? That evening, Jamie received an urgent call. Gabriel's son needed another blood donation. They gathered the community, hearts racing with a mix of adrenaline and fear. Would they rally? Would they heed the call for life? Jamie's heart beat wild in her chest as she coordinated the impending drive, praying that their fight had only just begun, and this time, they would win. In the weeks that followed, the community answered their call. Together, they organized drives, inspired by Ethan's fight and the ripple effect of courage that had begun to swell within their hearts. No longer alone, Jamie felt empowerment rising, a tide of unity against those who had once sought to quash their voices. In the end, the transformation wasn't just about healthcare improvements, it was about a community realizing its strength by banding together. Together, they became a vigilant force that could shatter the barriers created by doubt. This moment, this effort, became a defining chapter not just for Jamie, a single mom turned fierce advocate, but for a community that learned the power of connection and compassion. The hospital echoed with hope once more. But the flame was still burning bright. You need to be part of this incredible journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment below your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and be part of something greater. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Join us.